Hi everybody, Matt Lawton here, and this is the Astrological channel. I'm going to take a look today at the astrological weather report for the week of September 2nd through 8th. And the big thing is actually going to be today. There's a new moon at 12 degrees Virgo, and it's opposite Saturn, and actually the sun will be opposite Saturn too, so we're going to be feeling that opposition all week. A couple other things too. Mars will be going into Cancer this week, and a couple other things that I'll be talking about too is squaring Neptune. Mercury is squaring Uranus for the third time, so we got a few things to talk about this week for sure. So first, just a little bit of business. The Astrological Winds channel is a free video blog that I do on YouTube every week. So if you have a YouTube account and you like what you're seeing here, please become a follower. And that'll allow, then you'll get the notification that, when the blog is posted every week. And you have to make sure actually your notifications are on to do that. Also, the blog has been, long before it was a YouTube channel, which has been several years now, it was a podcast. So it is still available on podcasts. I put it out every week through Buzzsprout, and there's a number of different podcasts that pick it up. So, if you don't really want the video feed and you don't really need it, just listen to the audio, maybe when you're out at the gym or something, some other time where you're not attached to that screen, but you still want to hear something good. That's a good chance to listen to the blog also. The Astrological Winds channel also has an Instagram page. So if you want, and you have an Instagram account, become a follower there too. And that's another place where I put the link to the blog every week. Also, sometimes I put some extra comments during the week, and haven't been doing it too much lately, but definitely sometimes do that. Also, I put it on my private Facebook account, and that's Matthew Lawton. And if you ask me for a Facebook friend request there, and I will approve that, and then it will show up in your newsreel every week. The best place to find it, though, without the YouTube, is on my website. That's www.astrologicalwinds.com. And I post the blog every week there, and the old ones are embedded there too. So if you need to go back to the monthly or the year or whatever, a week before, and check stuff out, they're all there. I also do a calendar page every week there that talks about some of the Earth holidays going on each week and some of the astronomy of the week. So it's cool to check that out. And that's also the place to find my menu for my professional services. I've been a professional astrologer for over 20 years, has 7 years of training in that, and I'd love to do your chart or a friend's chart or a family member's chart when you guys are ready for that. So all the different services I have are listed there. The prices are for them there. If you need to work with me on some of the prices, we can do that. Also, if you're a professional and you're looking for something that's even more than an annual reading, you want a monthly or a weekly or even daily readings, those services are available too. So yeah, and then if you have a group too, and you're looking for some kind of workshop, lecture, class, something like that, can be done online even, just check out the menu and all that stuff on the website. And that is the best way that you guys can support me and the blog, which is a free service. If you'd like to give a donation, I would not say no. It actually cost me a little bit of money to put the blog out. There's my Venmo handle at Matthew-Lawton. I also have a Cash App, which is just $ Matthew Lawton. And every $5 you give enters you into a raffle chance to win a free reading. So if you're into that, do that. And the folks who have supported me and have supported me through the years, I really appreciate. Any amount that you can give is really deeply felt and appreciated. And also, remember, if you're not familiar with astrology terms, don't get lost in the terms. You want to hear the energy, what's going on this week. That's what's important. That's what's self-empowering. That's what can help you navigate these times. So, one of the things is, I'll get into the blog now. One of the things I just wanted to mention, I did talk about September in last week's blog. So if you missed that and you want to hear the monthly, that's in there. But the one other thing I didn't mention, and the new moon reminded me of it this week, is that we are going into eclipse season too in September. So our full moon later in the month is going to be the first eclipse of eclipse season. Okay. So that's coming up, that lunar eclipse, and then we'll have a solar eclipse next month. So yeah, so be prepared for that stuff too. But let's talk about this new moon. The new moon that we have right now is in Virgo, right? And it's going to be, it's 12th degree of Virgo. So that's where you want to look in your chart and where 12 degrees Virgo is, and you'll know where the new moon is falling in your chart. And that's, the house that house that it falls in, and the energy that represents, that's going to be where you feel it most personally in your chart. So what, new moons, we've talked about this. I've talked about this a lot. I know a lot of you guys know. New moons, it's a seeding time. It's a time to plant new seeds, new beginnings, get things going, and so new moon in Virgo is a very practical new moon. It wants to plant seeds that it sees results in the real world with. The moon in Virgo is very comfortable actually there, and the reason why, Virgo is an earth sign, right? And if you'll remember, the moon in Taurus, right, is very strong in Taurus. It's exalted in Taurus, another earth sign. The reason being is the moon is very much a rhythmic energy, right? It works in cycles, and so is the earth. So earth signs have a lot to do with the natural cycles and of things going on. So when the moon's in Virgo, it's actually very connected into the cycles of the earth and everything, and wants to get like practical results out of those things. We can be very skilled actually with connecting our mind and our hands and the tools that we use in order to get production, in order to get fruitful endeavors. In the northern hemisphere, where the zodiac was developed, and with the seasons of the northern hemisphere, Virgo is the time of harvesting, right? It's the time of like, if you followed all your rules and your procedures and your techniques properly and used them to the best of your ability, you're going to get a good harvest, right? And so here's the thing about Virgo, though, like, it knows that in order to have that success, and let's face it, like harvest is a very important thing, right? And when humans were first, you know, developing agriculture and settling down, harvest was, that's why astrologers came to be, because of stuff like that, because of needing to have an agricultural calendar basically. And we didn't have, our cell phone or a calendar on the wall to refer to, right? So like we needed people who knew like when the sun is here and this is the time of the year to do this. So this, so like the harvest was very important, because it was, if you didn't have a good harvest, the city, the town, the tribe was going to have a very rough time getting through the winter. So this is why Virgo is so much like, we need to get this right. Our survival depends upon this, and there's even a connection into the afterlife with this, of like, moving forward in the spiritual world requires doing the right things here on earth, in the Virgo sign, when you're here. So there's this very serious attitude that Virgo energy brings to the table about being practical, methodical, and getting the results we need to ensure that we're locked in with the rhythms of the earth and that we will survive. And so because of that, Virgo moon does have like a conservative kind of way of looking at things, right? It wants to make sure that we're doing things that we know have traditionally worked, that are locked in with those things. So that's the danger of Virgo too, is when we're not feeling like those standards are being lived up to, right? then we're going to get into this very critical and judgmental mind. And anybody that we see, or any situation that we see that's falling short of the mark, that's falling short of the standards that are set that we need to meet in order to have success, we are going to get very critical about. We're going to get, really on it. So we have to be really careful when we get into Virgo moon, therefore, of getting critical. But, there is this time of knowing, that, there's times where you have to be conservative and really make sure that you get it right. Right. And so the opposition, there's an applying opposition of the moon to Saturn, right? About 5 degrees off. And that is really the only aspect that's going on with this new moon. And that is just substantiating that Virgo conservatism. It's like, listen, right now there's hard times going on, economically. Like just see that economically, how everybody's dollar is stretched unless you're very much in the top part of the socioeconomic ladder. We're watching prices continue to go up. We watch, supplies and how much they're on hand continue to dwindle and go down or be less than we're able. And so this moon Saturn is actually pushing that energy too, of like the need to consolidate our resources, opposition, the need to make some very serious decisions with our resources and our relationships too. Like, where are we being drained and being brought down? The moon Saturn can be a very depressing energy, actually. It can make us feel like we're very isolated inside, that the gap between us and the other, opposition again, the other, we learn through relationships that the gap emotionally between us and the other is so wide of a chasm that we can't possibly bridge that chasm, that we have the realization that no one will ever quite realize how we exactly feel inside, and vice versa, that we will never realize how the other will exactly feel inside. And that can be depressing. That can be very depressing to our emotions, our ego, and our will. It can make us feel like we're isolated and on an island. And so once again, this can really, like the Virgo moon, it's introverted energy. It can shut down communications. And I will say this to you guys, like, emotions are like a roller coaster, right? And this can be a low point, okay? And when you're on a low or a high, you should not be making serious decisions. That's not the time. You're not seeing things clearly. In this case, we could be easily seeing the glass half empty and not recognizing that, the things that we still have available to us. So we want to be really, really careful here of not making decisions that we regret, right? Because like, we're just not in the right frame of mind of seeing things. We can get really into negative self-thinking in this one, really make ourselves feel unconfident, inadequate, that our attempts are futile. And really, it's a time when we're feeling like that, to let it go, to just ground out and to go back to the Virgo things that work. And what is that? That's perfecting your system. The best way to use this energy, you guys, is to, like, not only, make these conservative, make sure you're consolidating and conservative, but to work on the projects that you have, the work that you have, the hobbies that you have in detail, to take this perfecting Virgo energy and the perfecting Saturn energy, which, when it's allowed to roam free right now, can get into some negative spaces. Instead, take that focus and do the work of the details that you need to make sure that system is perfected, to make sure there is going to be reliability and structure, even in times of difficulty, in times of scarcity. And what that does is it builds endurance, it builds strength, it gives us the ability to know that even in the times when we have the least amount of support in resources and even emotions and things like that, that we can still make it through, that we can find other people or other connections, or just the resources, the techniques that we have are available to us, and that we can make it through it. Now, to make even matters worse, on this Monday, I'm laughing about it, but like Mars is square Neptune too. Remember, I talked about last week how the three outer planets, the three traditional outer planets, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, are all at the very end of the signs they're in. So, like, Mars is right at the end of Gemini, and it's going to square Neptune on this very same day. And that literally is just reinforcing the Moon Virgo opposite Saturn energy again. Mars square Neptune is a dissipation of energy. Okay. Physically, we may feel like we just don't have the energy for a couple of days to meet the regular demands of the world. And it can come through like as a nervous exhaustion. It's really interesting how this can come through. Like if you try to lay down and get some sleep or a nap, you may toss and turn, right? Like even though you're exhausted, it's like almost impossible to get, the proper way of resting that you need. And a lot of it is just like sometimes just once again feeling so discouraged and demoralized by the situations that are going on in front of you that you're just like ready to give up. Literally just throw in the towel. I give up. And you know what? That's not the right way to deal with this energy. I know we can all be feeling this right now very intensely, right? Especially after coming out of Mercury retrograde too. A lot of the other things that are, going on right now, the Pluto back into Capricorn, a lot of stuff really like, really like, pushing, restricting us, and, just like, and so it feels like, the easier road may be to give up, but that's not what Mars Neptune is trying to do. It's saying, wait a minute, slow down, reevaluate your situations, and do that on your own terms. This is not a time where you should be asking someone else, because everyone's locked into their own belief system. This can be about fanatical beliefs too, egotistical beliefs, right? So other people's opinions are not going to be of very much value right now unless they're very congruent with your value systems too, right? But otherwise, this is a time where you really need to reevaluate your own situations. The things that you are feeling demoralized about, the things that you are feeling are futile efforts, the things that you feel like giving up on, those are the things that you should be focusing this reevaluation energy upon, right? And just finding the answers for yourself. Now, wait, one thing that can be very tempting when this stuff happens is to get wonky with your actions. And when I mean wonky, like deceitful, even lie, like just trying to, be secretive or not tell the whole thing. What you will do by doing that, if you fall into that temptation, is just make the situation worse. Okay? It's going to make it even more confusing for yourself and anybody else involved if you do something like that. So you don't want to do that. And the other thing about Mercury, Mars, Neptune is to watch our health. Our bodies right now, our immune systems can be weakened under this energy. So we're susceptible to illnesses that are contagions, right? We're susceptible to allergies, sensitivities to substances or environment. So we need to protect our bodies now. And that means, once again, strengthening, slow movement, yoga, Tai Chi, meditation, things like that would be the best thing, But, like I said, it can be very difficult to rest. You know what the Mars Neptune is like? It's like having an itch that you can't quite reach. and it won't go away. And you're not even sure why it's there, But really, the best thing we can do with with Mars Neptune is to conserve our energy, conserve your physical energy during these 2 or 3 days of the middle of the week, and to like confront our own fears, because the inadequacy that we think we are seeing is actually just coming from like fears. And once again, we need to do that. Like, it's to confront them. It's the way to get through that energy. Now, more action for Mars is on Wednesday. Right before it goes into Cancer, it's going to hit Pluto with a quincunx, right? And this is a very different energy from the Mars Neptune. This is all of a sudden realizing what we want and then getting so pushy about it that we actually can get aggressive and super controlling and really annoy people around us for being pushy. This is like the energy of propaganda, coercion, like, okay, I'm gonna like literally try to push this down your throat now. So, and what that does is all it does is get resistance from others. It can threaten authorities. They can come down really hard on you after that, and so it's very, very interesting that that's going on. It's like, wow, like right after this moon Neptune, it's like we get this download of like, oh, well, this is what I really want to do, but then we can really go too far in our actions in doing that. So this is kind of like your your own actions can mess up your goals or your ends. So your means can mess up your ends is a good way to say it. So because the approach, and then the other thing is, if you're not doing that, then someone's going to try to do it to you. So like, if people who have that kind of power and authority and that type A kind of personality, then try to avoid them in the middle of this week, because they're going to push you and try to propagandize you into their situations. But the other big thing this week, Mars going into Cancer. Now this will be into November 5th, and I'll be honest with you guys, I've been doing astrology for over 30 years, right? I've been 35 years at this point that I've been really looking into it deeply. I honestly believe Mars in Cancer is where it's most unhappy. Mars in Cancer. And the reason why is, just think about the archetype of Mars. It's about action. It's about like protection, right? About having to have a strong defense, or, going out even onto the hunt, even having the strong offense, going, conquering, adventuring, that kind of energy, the energy of action, the energy of will, the energy of pushing forward. And when it goes into Cancer, the most emotional sign, it slows Mars down in its decision-making processes on how to act, because all of a sudden it has to take emotions into account. Like, emotions are way too messy for Mars energy, like Mars can't really be involved in emotions and act effectively as far as Mars is concerned. Now, that I don't know if that's necessarily so. I really think our job is to break through a lot of these archetypes. But in all honesty, the traditional Mars, it's like emotions are sloppy and messy, and they get in the way of like, like if I have to think about like, your feelings before I like, defend myself, then I may not defend myself as well. You know what I mean? So traditionally, it just doesn't work as well. Right. And so that's why what we call it, when it goes into Cancer, traditionally, we call it going into fall, which is a very weak point for it to be. And so that's really what this next few weeks till November 5th, actually. So we've got, several weeks to go, where this is how it's going to be for us, you guys. If we're feeling good, if we're feeling supported, if we're feeling like we have the things we need, right? Then we're going to be acting, and we'll be positive, and we'll be moving forward. If we're feeling negative and not supported, unsupported, and feeling like we don't have the things we need, then it just like kills our actions when Mars is in Cancer. And we literally can get into like a static state where we just don't do anything. We just kind of brood. And we just like literally can't get out of this shadowy kind of energy, So, the other thing about Mars and Cancer, Cancer has so much to do with family. So like, conflicts with your family are to be expected. If there's tension in family, and everybody's got tension in family, this is a time where it's really hard to see eye to eye. You guys you may try to manipulate one another, get obsessive with your behavior, be underhanded. And even on a bigger front, Mars represents, like, on a national scale, patriotism and heritage, right? And like for the US, which is a Cancer country, this is the time where it's, nations can get very defensive and get very warlike with one another, against one another, because there's this just this extreme patriotic me first energy. So like it can make conflict in the world ratchet up even more, unfortunately. So yeah, so that's, and then Friday is another big square. The third time Mercury is going to be squaring Uranus. So now remember, last week Mercury went direct, right? It's still at the end of Leo at this point, and it will be going into Virgo next week, which I'll be talking about next week. But so when Mercury is square Uranus, lots of ideas, information being thrown at us nonstop all day Friday, and most of it is half thought out. It's not worthy. It can be stimulating and exciting, but really not thought out for the details. But the thing is, this is the lower mind and the higher mind these two planets represent. So when they do connect, ingenuity comes through. The lightning bolt through the brain comes through at times, and there can be some incredibly ingenious ideas and some of those flashes of intuition that you do get. So that's what you really need to figure out under this one, is what is the idea that's worth holding on to, and what are the rest of them are just these sloppy, careless, not even half thought out ideas that probably have no chance of sticking to the wall. Also, because the energy is so full of information and stuff, it really fires us up, and it gets our nervous system, which is connected to the mind, obviously, very much in a frenzy. It can feel like this day may go by very quickly, right? And like it'd be very hard to keep up with everything inputting. So it can be a very nervous, scattered energy. Like, where did the time go? One of those days where everyone's running late and it's hard to keep up with everything. But like I said, some ingenuity is in there. Then on Saturday, we continue the new moon energy when the sun does its annual opposition to Saturn. And that is just like I said, it's really continuing this. This is a time where we can really see the relationships, because once again, that are blocking us from doing what we really want to do. A lot of times it's people who have authority over us, or still are approaching things from what is like an old school kind of way, but it can be very, very difficult, literally almost impossible, to express how you're feeling to like others. So once again, we bring it in, we bring the energy in, we get quiet, we get we really just like try to, say I'm practical. Once again, this can make us feel, really get into that half shadow, or like half empty, or shadow world, half empty glass kind of energy. And it's very difficult and arduous to make agreements with people, and there's like feels like there's conflict that's laying down underneath, and most of us will shut down. But once again, this is really good energy, just like the new moon, to work with, to work on the projects you have going on, to get it done. Whatever that is, the minute little details of whatever it is. Is it something physical? Is it something mental? Is it something on a machine? Because we really are a really good focus, a good editor, good self-criticism, and we can really perfect our techniques under this. It's just very, very difficult to relate to others. It's difficult to compromise, and yet that's what we need to do. So use this energy this week to really focus on that stuff, you guys, on your projects, your work, and the details, and getting the systems right, getting it down, because then when the time is more right, you'll have everything ready and you'll get the results that you want. The last thing I want to talk about too is on also on the weekend, and it's also on Sunday. Yes, it's also on Sunday. Mercury will be in a yod with the Neptune Pluto sextile that's been going on for decades now, right? And so this is kind of a little bit weird. It can make us fall under the influence of others or just strange ideas that can kind of take us on a roller coaster ride, and things that we don't normally fall under the influence of, but there's probably a reason behind it. So it's probably good to let the ride kind of take you in. But once again, it can get our nervous systems really worked up, like the Mercury Neptune square. So, like the whole next weekend, can be a lot of nervous, edgy energy going on. But like, and this one, we may also realize that a lot of our plans are too realistic, are not realistic enough. Like they're too idealistic, and that we may not ever be able to like meet them. But watch for nervous system weaknesses. Strengthen the nervous system next weekend. Do whatever you do to do that. And this energy, like I said, it's probably trying to take us to a place of letting us see things in another way that if we're trying to dictate where the ride goes, we're not going to be able to. So it's a good one to kind of just let it go and let it see. But yeah, so really this week, guys, really about getting our techniques perfected, doing the hard work that we need to do. It may be a little bit difficult to make connections with people unless they're really like on that same wavelength as you. So, use the energy for yourself, doing your duties, doing your work, perfecting your systems, getting things ready to go for when the energy is flowing more. And, and it's teaching us endurance, teaching us some patience, teaching us some strength, And, the Mars in Cancer is going to be difficult to navigate the next few weeks. There's no question about it. If you're going to be feeling depressed, you're not going to be motivated to do anything. So, and if you're feeling good, you're going to get a lot of stuff done. So we got to really balance that. But a lot of it is like, the emotional support needs, issues from family that can really drag us down there. So, having to like figure out some compromises, even if they're only in your own mind, even on how we're going to handle those situations. Okay, so next week, Mercury is going to go back into Virgo finally, and that will be really good for the rest of the month. Mercury will be in rulership, and that will help us really work on a lot of stuff in detail. So I'll get more into that next week. And remember, like I said, the other thing to remember about the month is eclipse season. So in 2 weeks, that first eclipse is coming with the full moon. So I'll be talking about that in 2 weeks. Okay, so right now you're going to pass the link on to somebody else because I just offered you this free service. Or if you'd like to give a donation, Venmo, please support me. There's my website. If you need that reading, please, please, please support me. I really appreciate everyone who does. And please pass that blog along. And I will see you all next week.